So, this is a Diamond/Masters level scrim. Looking to learn what you can do better individually and positioning and playing better with the team. Okay. Oh, hello, Archer. Welcome back. Yes, I know. Okay. So, Diamond Masters level scrim VOD we're looking at. We're looking at Breadboy playing DPS. With this team comp, Rhine, Zarya, Reaper Soldier, Moira, Lucio. Very close range, but also, interestingly enough, with a Soldier. Not sure if this is map specific or something. So, what I'm expecting to happen with this composition is to be very point favored. Obviously, a lot of close range heroes. Everyone except the Soldier, really. Being able to brawl on point is going to be very beneficial. Soldier can probably play fairly solo with his sprint available. There's nothing realistically that can actively punish him. He can likely go up to this high ground fairly uncontested. There's an enemy soldier on the team that can match him, I guess, but there should be no huge pressure on him. There's no dive tanks. There's no flankers like Tracer or Genji or anything like that. There's an Echo, and hopefully he'll be able to keep that in check. But your job here, Breadboy7, is going to be mainly with your frontline, being able to focus up and finish targets that your frontline finds engagements on, as well as potentially looking for flank aggression, but hopefully not too aggressive, because there's not a lot that your team can do to follow up, especially if you go for TPs onto this high ground, for example. If their Ana opens up here and you try to TP up, the most you're going to get is a bubble from your Zarya, which might be enough to get the kill, but it's going to be hard to actively go super aggressive with those kind of plays. So, before talking too much, let's just keep watching the VOD. So yeah, we're already moving towards point. There's soldiers on point too. Okay, focuses on the Rhine. I would like to see your focus elsewhere, honestly. Let's rewind just a touch. All right, nice quick ban. These guys have been popping up all over the place. So looking at your potential in this fight. So number one, you have point priority. I would argue not exactly where you want to be, but your soldier having the high ground and theirs being on the ground actually puts you in an advantageous spot from this position. You can force them into the point by having this pressure from the soldier. But generally, you don't like rushing to point this aggressively, at least not on this map. If this was like Nepal Village, you can rush to point no problem, because Nepal Village is just a big square with openings on either side. And you just need to watch 2 chokes and that's it. And typically you'll have a Mei with you and you just wall one off and focus on the other one. On this map, however, there are 6 openings, technically. And there's a lot of opportunity to get baited into aggression. There's a lot of opportunity to get surrounded and not being able to deal with all of your threats, especially with, for example, if Soldier shooting from here, if Echo shooting from here, if Ryan and Zarya are coming in here, where are you supposed to look as the Reaper, right? So what I'd like to see, hopefully your front line can do a fine job of matching their front line. You've got Ryan Zarya on both sides. You've got Moira Lucio on your side versus the Ana Mercy from the other side. So you have just as much healing, just as much potential for frontline to win that battle. What I'd like to see you doing is looking to stuff people like this Soldier who try to go aggressive on a flank. And I'm pretty sure that's what he was doing in this fight. Or in this case, he's actually trying to match your Soldier, which is not bad for you either. What is this? Okay. Interesting. It looked like a mini coalescence. I don't know what that was. But yeah, unless this Reinhardt gets booped in by your Lucio, goes aggressive unnecessarily or something, and you're able to like get behind him, you're never going to finish this kill. There's too much healing. There's too much peel for him. So I'd like to see you either focus the people that are stepping onto the point, like the Zarya, or find aggressive opportunities to find this Soldier isolated. Where is the enemy Ana? Yeah, the Ana's a bit out of your reach. But if Soldier keeps playing around this corner, for example, you should have a good opportunity to go aggressive on him. Otherwise, stepping out of this choke and into the open, especially now that your Soldier's dead, is not going to be a good time. And I think, yeah, now you've burned Wraith. You should get this point captured. Oh, maybe not. Now they're going to come in with you down. So yeah, ideally, because of how short range you are, I think... Here, let's just let the fight play out first, actually. Would have liked you to play this fight a little differently. Not just you, but your entire team. So first mistake was going directly to the point, because it left you with basically no options. Here, let me just play this out so it stops beeping. Alright, so, option 1. We'll talk about what we did. We sent Soldier up here, and we set 5-man onto point, and we looked to pressure these 2 chokes. We looked to pressure the Rhine by going aggressive. We looked to pressure the Zarya off point, stuff like that. Realistically, putting all of our resources into the Rhine and the Zarya, essentially all of our resources except Soldier, without being able to net the kill, and given how much space they have to work with to kite this, you're never going to net that kill unless you catch them off guard, unless you catch them with like a bunch of surprise damage or boop them in with Lucio or something like that. You're not going to net that kill. And unless Soldier finds a ton of value early on and forces them away from this choke and gives you opportunities to go aggressive yourself, it's going to be very hard to move off of this point. You're basically waiting to get poked down by these 2 members, and then as soon as they find any kind of advantage, in this case the Soldier going down, they just push in on you, and then they get the kill on you, and then they full commit and cap the point. So, how could we have played this differently? Number 1, if we want Soldier to play up here, we likely want to fight for this space, not the space on point. So in order for Soldier to be covering the same space your team is covering, you likely want to play around this area with your Rhine and your Zarya. Let's actually go to a pink. This is going to be your main contention point for first fight. From here, as well as you as Reaper can play around them, or you as Reaper can then like solo go to point and look to capitalize on people focusing your Rhine Zarya, or look for a TP play above here and then drop behind them, stuff like that. You can make aggressive moves rather than be locked into these limited sight lines, forcing to try and walk through this open space where they have Echo, where they have Soldier, where they have Ana, where they have Zarya, all ready to deal with you. You're taking space away from them instead of being forced to walk right through them, through their front line. So that's number 1, is prioritize this space first, especially with Soldier on this high ground, and try to capitalize on either them going to payload by isolating backline or by making aggressive moves from this location, which is much easier than making aggressive moves from here. That's what I would have liked to seen. This needs to be like a team decision if you guys are scrimming together regularly about where your front line wants to fight for. And in this case, on this map, I don't think going to point this early makes sense, and I think you paid for it. So hopefully we'll see some adjustments moving forward, where we don't put too much priority on the objective, because then they get to decide. Once you've put all your attention on the point, the enemy team then gets to decide who you're allowed to focus. And if you're only allowed to focus Rhine and Zarya, and you're never able to net those kills, it's going to be a bad time. So again, okay, we get the kill on Rhine this time. This is nice. Followed up on the Zarya. Nice aggressive coalescence play to open this up. Unfortunately, they do get the res off. Let's rewatch this opening from third-person perspective. So, taking a bit of unnecessary poke early, you can see your backline falls a bit low. Not a huge deal right now because your tank line's healthy and ready to go aggressive. But could have been avoided just by going through here, pathing wide, going through here, for example.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Reinhardt.
So yeah, really good aggression, bursting all the way through. My only worry is in order to kill the Zarya, it did take you all the way across the map. The amount of time you spent aggressing here, especially once you identified these threats on the flank. Your Zarya knew about these threats. Obviously, we knew about this Echo duplicating Rhine from our backline here and then shattering this way. We need to be a little bit faster to either mark and ignore. So either like we're ready to deal with that, but then we're still pushing forward, or we stop our aggression moving forward and be ready to deal with these threats instead. And just the fact that Zarya was this split from her team means it was good to focus her, but we needed something to answer the other threats on the other side. So I think you as an individual, Bread, were doing fine finding this focus. Unfortunately, yeah, Ryan gets slept here. and Zarya's kind of off doing her own thing, so isn't readily available to peel for the team. And then that shatter just leads to them potentially equalizing this, followed up by the res, of course. Not a whole lot you can do from this position now, since we've kind of burned a lot of resources just getting into this fight. It's going to be hard to close it out. Oh no. The shots. Another side note as well is our main take is new, still in the process of switching from rank mindset to more of a team mindset. So yeah, I mean, in this fight, he got slept. Not a whole lot he can do from that position. But ideally, if you want to continue aggression on the Zarya, he's ready to shield this way and stop any follow-up aggression onto your backline. That would just be an ideal scenario. And again, your Zarya could be thinking about the same thing, but instead she was a bit aggressive. I think because she got booped in by the charge, but needs to be thinking about dealing with that threat rather than going aggressive herself onto whatever target she was looking at here. So let's look at these shots. Yeah, you're overcompensating on your flicks here. Do you hold the mouse button down when you flick? The only reason I'm asking is there's a couple shots here that come through that are sort of like in the middle of your mouse movement. Like you're moving your mouse from here to here and the shot's coming out here. That one, for example. That one. You're shooting before the mouse finishes moving. That one.
Everyone heal up.
Feel the healing beat.
I require assistance.
So I'm wondering if that's something you don't hold the mouse button, because I think you're just overcompensating with your flicks then. Not used to Reaper, never been a character I've played until now. I mean, with any character, it'll take time getting used to their guns, of course, getting used to their kit, getting used to your effective ranges and all that stuff. But if you find yourself in these positions not netting a single kill, you got to look at how you can practice your mechanics in these situations and make sure that you're able to close out this advantage. Because you were in the face of two supports and they did basically nothing to counter you. They didn't even shoot at you, but you weren't able to finish the kills. As Reaper in that situation, you need to be able to finish those kills. Otherwise, you may as well play something like Tracer or McCree even. Mercy's getting away with a lot of reses. Oh, that's right. Okay. The beat comes through. Again, we find... Okay, let's watch. Okay, I didn't think. Again, we're finding ourselves in this situation where we're sort of locked on point, and it's becoming very hard to find aggressive opportunities on anything. You mark the Echo, she flies away. You find the Rhine, he kites away. You see the Zarya, the Mercy in this situation, Mercy flies away, Zarya walks away. Very hard from this position to take anything, so you individually and you as a team, you guys need to be able to close out these fights before heavily focusing on the objective. Even if it takes you off point and you end up flipping the point, it's more important to finish these kills and be able to close out this fight than it is to make sure you're ticking for as long as possible on payload, because otherwise you're just going to end up stagnating with no resources. A couple ults come out, it's going to be enough. Rhine being down is pretty huge because now they've got no front line. Alright, we do close it out. The Death Blossom and the Coalescence coming through.
This will heal you.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Fire will 76.
Nice. Alright, yep. Good focus on the tanks, of course. Nice little chase. I'd like to see you stay up there, honestly. Think about how they're going to retake this point and what you can do. So right now, I can tell from your playstyle, you follow up your tanks a lot. And that usually means from a linear angle. In this case, it was very simple. Obviously, they grabbed. You walk in and shoot the tanks in the grab, right? Very, very simple. You can think more creatively as Reaper and be more aggressive towards backline members especially by playing the map more when you have space. So now that you have control of the point, you fully team wipe them. They're forced to retake through likely one of these lanes. You can wait up here. As soon as Ryan starts getting some pressure, even if you're still just dropping on tanks and focusing tanks, you'll get a ton more value off by dropping behind them, getting around their shield, getting around their bubbles by timing your aggression around it, and potentially find opportunities to drop on people like Ana, like Soldier, like Zarya if she gets low and tries to back away, rather than limiting your range by forcibly walking through them and basically limiting your targets to Ryan and Zarya, and then once they go down, you can sort of flex around. You can make more active choices from positions like this, from positions like this, even from being on the ground if you don't have time to take high ground, being down here, coming out from a flank route, stuff like that. You are Reaper. You have a get out of jail free card in your shift, so make sure you are making these aggressive moves that when it does benefit your team. Otherwise, you're basically just playing any other hit scan DPS. You're playing a McCree who has trouble taking map. You're playing the same angle as your Soldier, and you're kind of just stacking damage. But yeah, they're having a hard time retaking this anyway, and you should be no problem stabilizing here. Ooh, that's a nice shot. Maybe you're just getting warmed up. So yeah, good point overall. I think in general, too much focus around the point itself without clear ways of getting out of it and engaging on targets. You got covered a lot by ultimate usage from what I saw. And not enough aggressive movement from your Reaper. Again, focusing tanks is good. Because also after playing console for a few hours, hey, it happens. So good focus on tanks, of course. That's one of Reaper's best jobs, but his pure damage output is through the roof once you can close the distance. So put yourself in good positions to actually close that distance. When you have the space to work with, take advantage of it. Don't stick with your tanks all the time.
3, 2, 1. Round 2. Capture the objective.
Comes.
Alright, we're playing for right side here. This is a great map of potential aggressive Reaper plays because although it's a square, this map plays like a giant circle with teams rotating around non-stop. Basically, all your confrontations are going to happen at one of these four corners. And something you can do as the Reaper player in these comps is if you know your team is going to go aggressive in one of these rotation plays, like say we're playing right here, we're looking to close the distance here and then close the distance here and potentially engage on them here. You can make a TP play in here and then hit them from the other side at the same time. There's a lot of arrows on screen. But yeah, just remember, there's 4 major fight zones at each of these corners. You should expect engages around these places. So if your team is going aggressive this way, you can make a play like this with a TP play here, getting behind them and just decimating their backline instantly, getting one-shot combos off. And if not, forcing them to completely turn around to deal with you rather than just having to face in one direction, knowing that their one shield in Sigma is going to be able to block a ton of damage, so they'll have more time to work with as their backline members, as their Ana, as their Ashe, as their Hog even. So look for these opportunities as the Reaper player, especially on maps like this. But yeah, instead, your focus is only on the tanks here, and you're doing a bunch of damage, but it's taking a long time, and we didn't even net a kill there. Now your soldier's paying for it. So imagine if instead of being forced to focus this Hog for an entire clip's worth, you were back here, and you were able to get a surprise, like, one-shot melee onto this Ashe, and then you can just wraith away back to your team. Because in likelihood, they should be walking into you at the same time that you're walking into their backline. So you're looking to both collapse with your team, but also take advantage of them, of the enemy team potentially going aggressive. So if red is your team, you're looking to do this while you're looking to catch them doing this. The fact that they're all looking in one direction gives you more opportunities to get these isolation kills. The fact that they're all looking at the rest of your team means it's going to be easy to regroup with your team, especially since putting attention on you means less attention on them. Putting attention on them means less attention on you. So you balance that control of the map with your aggression, and you time things around your team really heavily, and you'll be able to find tons of value in the backline. Yes, it makes sense to try and focus down Hog. He's a big hitbox. You want to burn him down as fast as possible. Oh, nice boot from you, Lucio. but I'd say you're wasting a lot of time here. There wasn't a lot you did this fight that really contributed to netting that win. Let's see how your Lucio even got that boop, actually. Oh, missed it.
The objective is now active.
So look what your Lucio's doing. Your team is taking the attention here by focusing the hog. You're making this rotation. That's leading to the enemy team stepping up to try and punish your backline members, pushing this way, including you. And your Lucio's taking advantage of this by getting this 2-man boop off. You could be doing the same thing. If your team's aggressing this way onto a solo hog, and you can't get there on time, you could be looking to go aggressive right here, and then wraithing back to your team. Assuming they don't go like completely off the point, chasing this hog or anything, you'll be able to regroup with them, and you'll find an opportunity to leverage the fact that they're looking to go aggressive. They're giving up defensive positioning around these walls, and they're leaving themselves open to potential Reaper damage. It's not hard to close this distance. Granted, there's a Lucio there, and he'll probably boop you away, and it's not like an amazing example, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. You're trying to subvert their expectations about where you're going aggressive instead of just always tunneling on tanks, always focusing on where your tanks are focusing. And yeah, without that boop, I think this would have been lost. It's taking so much time to net this kill. And yeah, without those boops coming through, this soldier probably and Sigma would have just gotten a ton of value hitting your backline. Don't think of your TP just as like a gap closer. Think of it as a way to like throw off what they're expecting from you. Again, it's going to be very hard to burst through this choke when all you can do as one of the major damage dealers on your team is focus this big fat pig and this shield. Because that getting a bit of damage on the pig is not going to net you an advantage to burn through this corner. Burning down his shield is not going to net you an advantage to push him. So you're going to have to like do that and then find another advantage to keep going. Otherwise, they're just going to kite you out, bait you to overextend, and then punish you. Bait you out, punish you. So from this kind of situation, you could be doing the same thing. You could be looking to go what this soldier's trying to do. You could be walking over here, taking shots over here, telling your team to go aggressive here, and then meeting them in this fight location. You could be teleporting behind this Sigma and letting your team push him, like maybe your Ryan marks here while your Zarya pushes the Sigma with is your soldier? Is that who that is? Oh, it's Moira. Jeez. But yeah, you do not need to be a frontline player. You don't need to be positioning like a tank. You can be positioning like a flanker in some of these cases. Not like all the time. There's going to be a lot of situations where you need the resources of your tanks to work with any space. But in a Koth map that's this rotation heavy, or when you're looking to punish this kind of split from their team, you can do a lot by taking a flank angle because their attention is just always going to be on your front line. And if you're only working with the space your front line's getting, you're often not going to be able to get enough value as Reaper. Nice. You're winning a lot of these frontline fights because of how weak their frontline is and because they're not getting advantages from these flanks. You see their soldier and their hog trying to find advantages, but they're just not getting them. So of course you're going to be winning these frontline fights, but imagine if this was a mirror match. If they were running Ryan Zarya, for example, how much harder it would be to actually net these kills. Ooh, there goes one advantage. The Wraith. Gonna be hard to turn this, especially now with that beat coming through. Glad you didn't burn the Death Blossom at least. But yeah, we're coming to this next fight. 83%, 5 ults on the board. This should be no problem. having a massive ult economy is another reason to try and go aggressive on a flank, because it just puts more in their mind that they need to worry about. Is he going for a flank blossom? Is he going for some other kind of play on their flank? Meanwhile, there's opening more space for your Zarya to find a grab, more space for your Coalescence to find value. More ults, more ults. Probably should have staggered them a little bit to answer some of these responses like the nano, but it's not going to matter. Hopefully, we'll be able to close out this map before they can touch with anything. They've only got attack visor, so it should be no problem. You're also scared of just feeding and being too aggressive. I would say that's a valid concern, but you need to test how far you can go before telling yourself you're going to feed. You need to see it firsthand how aggressive you can be before saying you don't want to be too aggressive, you know? Because right now you're being too passive. You're not getting as much value as you could be getting, and you're not opening up as many situations for your team as you could. Again, I'm not saying every single time go on the flank, every single time TP behind them and go super aggro on the Ana or anything like that. But at the very least, you should be considering those opportunities, especially when your team has other ults to work with, something like a grab, for example. It's a great way to make space for your team. It's a great way to follow up aggression for your team when you can come from an unsuspecting angle. Stuff like that. Oh, my voice is going. I hope that all makes sense. I know it's very nuanced about when you can go in, and you're not someone like Tracer who can be like in the backline like that and then get out. Like, it's not that easy as Reaper. Speaking of Tracer. But it is still possible. You just need to be a little more strict about your timings and really work around the space your team is creating. So let's gauge your Tracer play to see how aggressive you can be now. I'm curious about the comp swaps on this map in particular. Nice kill. They can't touch you. Yeah, you got so much more confidence on Tracer. Look at you. Oh, damn. A little bit too far. But, like, leading up to that, you did a really good job. I think if you had recalled a bit earlier and just gotten out after you'd gotten so much space created. But look how confident you are on Tracer. I'd like to see this confidence on your Reaper play instead of relying so heavily on shields and your tank space. Like I said, obviously, you're not as flexible as Tracer when it comes to movement on Reaper, but you can still make plays. Nice little kill. You're a bit trigger happy with Tracer, aren't you? I'm surprised you didn't die there to that soldier. There you go. You're blink happy, and you're really aggressive in terms of your positioning, which can be good if your team is fast enough to follow you. But as we saw from first fight, and you almost got punished there. I would argue you should have died there to that soldier. Oof. You put yourself in these situations where unless your team immediately follows you up, you're going to die. Or unless you get the kill, you're going to die. You're burning all your resources to get in and get going, so that you don't have enough to keep it up, so that once you, like, if you don't immediately get, like, a kill after a clip and a half, you're out of blinks, you're down recall, but you're still going aggressive, that's when you sort of need to rethink how much value you're going to get during this fight. This was kind of unlucky. You were waiting for healing, didn't hear the hog coming. But again, very back and forth fight. Your Lucio's going ham. So yeah, treat blinks as like effective HP. When you've got no blinks, you've got 150 HP, but when you've got 3 blinks up, you may as well have 500 HP. It's so hard to hit a Tracer when she knows what she's doing and she's got the resources available. Little eager on the pulse bomb there. Again, going really aggressive, blinking past the hog even, instead of recalling there. The good news is, you're not getting punished super heavily. You've died a couple times, but that's fine. Ooh, that's not good though. And your team's taking a bunch of space because of it. So your team managed to flip that point because there were so many people trying to deal with you. But now, again, your gas tank only goes so far. You weren't expecting the nano? I wasn't either. But the fact that you were in so deep probably triggered your Ana into thinking you were looking to go aggressive. It was kind of a reactionary play to try and win that fight out. Alright, good. We're not going in this time. Good. And again, look how you're taking these flank routes on Tracer than you weren't taking on Reaper. Because you're looking to close the distance on an unsuspecting angle or on backline members. Bit of a lucky hook cancel there. Not a bad stick. Ana did not see that coming. Ooh, but a headshot. More than enough room to work with for your team, though. That should be the map. Ooh. Yeah, that's gotta be the map. More nano tracer. Alright. So, not going to comment too much on your tracer play. I'd like to focus more on your Reaper. I think that's where you need the most improvement. At least from your hero pool. Like you said, I don't think you're super comfortable playing Reaper. You're a little bit worried about going aggressive, not sure about your timings, stuff like that. So number one thing, absolutely, when playing Reaper, is you can still play like a flanker. You do not need to play like a Zarya. You do not need to play like a McCree, following up on the space that your tanks are creating. You can create that space yourself, and there's going to be a lot of situations where it's more beneficial for you to create that space than it is for your team. For example, looking at Ilias well, like we talked about, the 4 main fight zones at these corners. If your team is constantly just rotating around the map and getting kited out, there's nothing that's gonna happen. Like if both teams are just chasing each other around the map like this, nothing's gonna happen until one team finds an advantage. So you can force that advantage by TPing across the point and meeting your team as they're coming around, by catching backline off guard as they're trying to rotate, stuff like that. But even on non-rotational maps, like even on a map like this, you can still set up on flanks while your team is pushing one way. If your team is pushing to point, for example, you can try and get across through this bridge, try and get behind them. You can try and TP across. It's a bit risky on this map because of how open the sight lines are, but it's still doable. You could even, like, again, like say your team's playing for this side, and you manage to get a TP across all the way here, and then you can come from behind them right back to your team. Same thing on this side. You can TP across from here to here, meet people who are playing back here if your team's playing on point, for example. Look for ways to open up the fight for yourself. Look for ways to close the distance on important members. If you're spending all of your time on Reaper looking at nothing but tanks, and they're getting away, then you need to rethink your hero pick, because there's just no reason to play Reaper into tanks if you can't burn down the tanks. This is why you typically see a lot of teams playing Mei, because you can actually stop the tanks from kiting away with a Mei wall, freeze them, and then actually have time to do the damage, whereas most tank lines and almost any 2 tanks should have enough resources to at least give up space and survive. If not, they're probably playing poorly or they're very uncoordinated. And as one of the highest damage dealers in the game as Reaper, if you cannot kill people before they kite away, you're just going to be wasting your time. You're going to be building them ult charge for their supports, and they're going to be forced to maybe give them some space. But then once your resources are down, once you've gone aggressive, then they're going to find ways to get back into it and regress onto your team. So find ways around that by cutting off their kiting routes, by getting on members that can't survive your burst aggression. Members like backline, like Ana, Mercy, Soldier. Of course, you need to worry about things like Sleep Dart, McCree Flashbang, stuff like that, Lucio Boops. You'll need to gauge how aggressive you can be based on enemy composition and stuff like that. But you still need to find ways to go aggressive. If all you're doing, like I said, is following the tanks around, I think that's wasted use of Reaper. You'd be doing more on like a McCree, where you could like still follow in the tank space, but have much more reach from where the tanks are playing, if that makes sense. Other than that, on the Reaper play. A few mechanical mishaps. Like I said, I think you are over flicking. At least you were a couple of your shots. You also hit some nice ones too, so maybe it's just a little inconsistent with your aim. Treat it like you would like a McCree. Like you're thinking and planning every single shot. You're flicking for each shot, clicking at the end of the movement, making sure you're aiming directly for your center of mass targets, stuff like that. And really practice getting used to that close range aim, because if you are in melee range of a support and you don't get the kill, then you need to rethink that hero choice, because you don't have the you're putting yourself in the right situation, but you're not able to close it out. At least it should be consistent enough that it warrants making those kind of plays. Because like I said, if you're not making those kind of plays, you're kind of just wasting your time. Yeah, that would be the biggest thing for Reaper, is just like I said, the aggressiveness, the willingness to go aggressive, the timing with your team, the using your team's attention in your favor, and then also using attention on you to your team's benefit when you have like ult economy and stuff like that. All very, very strong. And yeah, Tracer play, I think the biggest thing, I wasn't paying super close attention to all of your decisions. I was still kind of thinking and comparing it to your Reaper. Biggest thing by far is your cooldown management, making sure you're not wasting blinks when you don't need to, make sure you're not overcommitting when you're low on resources, making sure you're able to get in, get your value, and get out. Not just get in, trade a kill every single time. Because if you go in with that mindset that you need to get value, you need to finish this kill, and it's going to cost you your life to do it, you're probably going to get punished more often than not. But I'd like to see the confidence and the aggression on the Tracer. I'd like to see you bring that into your Reaper play. Treat him more like a flanker than you're currently treating him, and I think you'll find a lot more success. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you for the VOD, Bread. Hope that was helpful. Looking forward to seeing more of your Reaper in the future. See how we're progressing. When it comes to playing in a team environment too, you can always talk to your team about lining up those timings, treating Reaper more like a flanker than a main DPS, for example.